Hello there and welcome to another What's for Dinner video. So this first night I am making this everything but the kitchen sink taco pasta. I'm just using up a bunch of stuff I had in the pantry. So this is some frozen turkey burger patties and I'm just browning that up with a diced onion and some garlic, and I'm seasoning that with some onion powder and garlic powder. Once it's fully cooked, I drained off the grease and I added in some salsa, some rotel, some corn, some black beans, and some taco seasoning. And I'm just gonna give that a mix. And while that's coming up to a simmer, I just put some pasta in some boiling water to cook. Now I'm adding some queso dip. This was just left over from a Christmas party, so I just threw it in here because, like I said, we were using some stuff up. So I just added in that cheese sauce, gave it a mix, and then I added that sauce to the pasta once the pasta was fully cooked and drained. Now the pasta, it is all kind of random noodles, so it might not look the prettiest, but when I tell you this stuff was good, it was very good. I added some pepper jack cheese, gave it a stir, and it was ready to go. So this is what it looked like. Again, it doesn't look like much, but I actually made this for a lunch prep and I ate it all week, and I normally don't like to eat the same thing over and over again. But this was so tasty that I really didn't mind eating it all week long. So even though this was a random recipe I threw together, I would make this again. I really enjoyed it. My friend Tabitha that works with me, who also ate this for lunch a couple of days, also really enjoyed it. I think it's kind of funny that when you throw a random recipe like this together, it can actually end up being one of your new favorite recipes. So give this one a try. You will not regret it. So the next night I made a Mississippi roast. So I just have this chuck roast that I got at Aldi, and I'm putting it in the crock pot with some banana peppers and some of the banana pepper juice. The recipe called for peppercini peppers, but I have banana peppers on hand, so that's what I used. Next I'm going to put a little bit of ranch seasoning and then a packet of French onion soup mix. The original recipe said to top this with a full stick of butter, but I thought that was way too much, so I just did a couple of tablespoons. After I cooked it on high for about 8 hours, I took my hand mixer to it and shredded it up. And this is what it looked like when it was done. It honestly doesn't look that good. It just looks like some mush up in a bowl. But I'm telling you, this is so flavorful and so good. When it was time to serve it up, I just made some homemade mashed potatoes. I did not film myself making those because I've made those on this channel so many times. So this was the finished product. It was absolutely delicious, and the leftovers are just as delicious. So if you haven't tried Mississippi roast, I highly recommend. It's really good to make the same recipe with chicken and put it on a hamburger bun. Like, there's just so much you can do with this. It is so good. The next night, I just made the egg roll in a bowl, and I did not film this either because it was the same way I did that teriyaki turkey bowl in my last What's for Dinner video. So I did it the same way. I just added in a bag of coleslaw mix, served it over some rice, and that was dinner. It was super easy and super delicious. The next night, I made probably the world's largest pot of vegetable beef soup. Now, it really wasn't a big pot, but when I tell you my crock pot was full to the freaking top, I mean it. Like, it was about to spill over everywhere, but it was worth it. It was all right in the end. But what I started off with was dicing some vegetables up. I cut up an onion, some carrots, and some celery. So I just had that in a bowl and I put that aside, and I am browning up some ground beef. After it was about halfway cooked, I added in my vegetables that I chopped up and kind of sauteed those in the fat that rendered from the beef. I seasoned it with my usual onion powder and garlic powder. And once the beef was fully cooked, I drained off any excess grease, and then I added this to my crock pot. Next, I added in some diced up potatoes, some corn that I drained, a random can of mixed vegetables that I found in the pantry that I needed to use. So I drained those, added those, a can of green beans drained, some frozen okra, a can of diced tomatoes, a can of tomato sauce, and then some water. And I put enough water to kind of cover most of the vegetables. And then I seasoned it up with some broth base, some salt, pepper, a little bit of parsley, some Italian seasoning, and I gave that a mix. And you see how full this is. It was hard to mix it without sloshing it everywhere. Now, after I mixed this together, it just looked like it was missing something, so I added a can of tomato paste along with some garlic, and I also added some onion powder and garlic powder. You know, I have to put that in literally everything I cook. And then I also put a little sprinkling of chili powder in there just to maybe deepen the color a little bit. And I gave this a mix and got it all fully incorporated. I really had to kind of beat that tomato paste around to break it up and get it to dissolve in the liquid. But once it was all fully incorporated, I put the lid on there and I ended up cooking this on high for about 5 hours. You could cook this on low for about 8 hours or so, but I just put it on high because it was already later in the day when I got it started. Everything in this except for the potatoes were fully cooked, so really you're just cooking it until your potatoes are tender and your vegetables are done to your liking. Mine were already all cooked since I used canned except for the okra, so it just really had to heat up. And yeah, so this is what it looked like once I served it up. I just served it with some cornbread that I had in the freezer that I needed to use, so I just thawed it out, slapped some butter on it, and that was dinner. I ate leftovers of this for a few days afterwards, and the leftovers are just as good. So I highly recommend giving that soup a try because it's delicious. The next night I made chili, so I am actually cooking some pinto beans in my Instant Pot. I had never cooked beans in the Instant Pot, but I will never go back to not cooking them in the Instant Pot because they were perfect after 35 minutes. And usually I put beans in my crock pot on high for like 12 hours and they're still not done. So Instant Pot all the way. Technically mine's the crock pot instant cook or whatever. I don't know. The little off brand, I got it because it was cheaper. Well, technically crock pot is a name brand. Anyways, but while those were cooking, I went ahead and cut up my vegetables. So I am dicing up some bell pepper and then I'm also going to dice up an onion. So I'm just getting these cut up and I'm going to put those in a bowl over to the side, and then I'm going to slice up this steak. Now this was in my freezer. I can't remember what I was originally going to use it for. I think I was going to use it for fajitas or something, but I didn't end up making those. So I just cut this steak up, and in this pot of chili, I decided to do steak and ground beef. So in my Dutch oven, I am browning up this ground beef. When the beef was about halfway cooked, I added in the steak and the vegetables that I chopped up, and I just let this cook until the meat was fully done and the vegetables started to get a little tender. Of course, you know, I had to season it up with my onion powder and garlic powder, and I put a scoop of fresh garlic in there as well. But after it was fully cooked, I drained off the excess fat and put it back in the pot. And here I'm just being extra and opening my cans on camera because I got this can opener for Christmas and I think it is absolutely adorable. I have wanted it for like a year but just would not let myself buy it for some unknown reason. But my cousin got it for me in a gift swap and I was so excited. So there's my cute little can opener. But I just added all of those canned products to my Dutch oven and gave that a stir. I also added in some water and some beef broth base. It was the Better Than Bouillon kind. That's what I had on hand. I actually added a little too much water, so I ended up adding another can of tomato paste. I just do not have that on camera. And then I was going to drain my beans in a colander, but that just was not going as planned. I cannot get that pot out of the little Instant Pot insert, so I just had to scoop them out. And here I am adding in my homemade chili seasoning. I have a video coming up soon on how I make my homemade seasoning, so be on the lookout for that if you're interested in that kind of thing. But of course, you know, as always, had to add my garlic powder and onion powder. And I also added a little bit of chili powder and some salt and pepper. And then I added a little bit of taco seasoning because I was just like, you know what? I think that sounds good. So I just put a little teaspoon or so of that in there. And I let this simmer for about 2 hours. And this is what it looked like when it was fully cooked. I forgot to take a little video of my bowl when I fixed our bowls for dinner. But this was seriously the best chili I ever made. Hey guys, I am coming to you in all my nighttime glory. I am no makeup, in my pajamas, but it's real life over here. But I just wanted to come on here and say thank you so much for being patient with me. As some of you know, I had COVID shortly after Christmas. but we are blessed. We are feeling better. We are well now, and I finally felt up to doing some voiceovers and getting another video out for you guys. So again, thank you so much for being patient, and I appreciate you so much for watching. If you like content like this, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing. I would love to have you here, and I guess I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.